Claire always believed that her greatest achievement was living a peaceful life. The quiet after arguments, the steady rhythm of routine with her husband Ryan, and the comfort of a well-kept home were all she needed to feel happy. At 38, her face carried the faint traces of time, but her warm brown eyes still smiled with sincerity. Her dark hair was usually pulled back into a simple bun, a quiet sign that she valued substance over appearances. They lived in a modest but cozy home in a quiet corner of Brooklyn, not far from Prospect Park. Claire cared for every detail. The paintings in the living room, the books arranged by color on the shelf, the smell of cornbread filling the house on Sunday afternoons. To her, that home was more than four walls. It was love made visible. Ryan, meanwhile, was admired by everyone. He was the man people pointed to as an example. Kind, hardworking, always ready with a smile or a kind word. He worked at an engineering firm and usually came home around 7. In the early years of their marriage, he had brought flowers, surprised her with little gifts, and showered her with compliments. But as time passed, those gestures faded into distant memories, and Claire stopped expecting them. She told herself mature love was quieter, less showy. Then everything began to shift. It started with a single message. A notification lit up Claire's phone one evening, from an unknown number. No name, no photo, just one blunt question. Do you know where your husband is right now? She read it over and over, confused. That same night, Ryan had said he was working late, something he'd done before. Uneasy, Claire didn't reply. She convinced herself it was a mistake, maybe even a bad joke. But a seed of doubt had been planted. More messages followed in the days ahead. Some were cryptic, others came with photos. None of them clear, but always unsettling. Ryan entering or leaving unfamiliar places, a cafe, a commercial building, an underground garage. Places that didn't fit with the story he'd told her. At first, Claire dismissed it as someone trying to mess with her, but each new detail, the times, the descriptions, the precision, felt too intentional to ignore. One message cut straight through her. Your husband is looking outside for what he can't find at home. The words stung like acid. Claire had never considered herself superficial. She believed she had always given love, care, and support. But those words cracked the foundation of everything she thought she was. Suddenly, the walls of her carefully built life seemed fragile. From then on, Claire saw Ryan differently. He looked sharper, more polished, but also more distant. He guarded his phone, smiled secretly at the screen, and pulled away when she reached for him. Behaviors she once overlooked now screamed at her. She didn't want to become paranoid, didn't want to morph into the suspicious wife who spied and doubted. But the not knowing hurt worse than the truth ever could. One Wednesday morning, she decided to surprise him at work. She cooked a meal with love and walked into his office, telling herself it was just a thoughtful gesture. But when she arrived, the receptionist politely told her Ryan was at an off-site meeting. With food in her hands and her stomach twisting, Claire walked home in silence. The cake she had baked the night before still sat untouched on the table. Its sweetness had turned bitter. That night, Ryan came home later than usual. Claire noticed everything. The different cologne, the faint lipstick stain on his collar, the way his eyes flicked away when he saw her waiting in the living room. She didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, she gathered every clue, piecing together a puzzle she wished she could ignore. But her heart, once steady in its belief in calm, loyal love, now beat with grief and anger. The silence in their home was no longer peaceful. It was a ticking bomb. After that night, after the lipstick and the empty excuses, Claire stopped pretending. She stopped hoping for flowers or sweet surprises. Instead, she started paying attention, not to his words, but to his silences, his delays, his coldness, and, of course, to the messages that never stopped coming. Now, they weren't hints. They were daggers. They say you're cold, that you don't take care of yourself anymore, that you've become a shadow. Did you know he calls me love while you sleep? I wake him with kisses. Each sentence sliced into her self-esteem. She read them, deleted them, cried, but couldn't stop. It was like an addiction to pain. A part of her clung to the hope that it was all a lie, that some stranger was trying to destroy her life. But she no longer trusted even herself. Then came the photo. Ryan holding hands with a blonde woman, leaving a restaurant. No more riddles. No more doubts. Claire's world collapsed. Betrayed, discarded, treated like nothing after years of devotion, sacrifice, and quiet support. That night, she couldn't sleep. Wrapped in a blanket on the couch, she waited. When Ryan finally walked in close to midnight, muttering about a last-minute meeting, Claire rose to her feet. "Ryan, we need to talk." He froze, eyes wary, as if gauging the threat. He tried to dodge into the kitchen, but Claire followed. "Who is Vanessa?" Her voice was steady, though her throat was tight. His eyes widened. "What are you talking about? Don't lie." "I have proof, photos, messages." "Who is she?" Ryan sat down heavily, his head dropping into his hands. She was there when I felt alone," he mumbled. "I stayed with you through everything, when you lost your job, when your dad got sick. I never left." "Then why?" He hesitated, then sighed. "Because you changed. The marriage lost its spark. Vanessa makes me feel alive again. She sees me. She appreciates me." Claire didn't scream. She didn't break down in front of him. But inside, her world turned to shards. "I want a divorce," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. Ryan didn't argue. He simply nodded, like it was the answer he had been waiting for all along. Within days, he was living in Vanessa's apartment. But the nightmare didn't end there. At the bakery one morning, Claire felt the stares, the whispers. She didn't understand until a neighbor, pity etched on her face, finally told her. "They're saying you mistreated Ryan. That's why he left." Claire froze. Her skin burned with shame. The story had been twisted. The betrayed wife was now the villain. And that's when she understood. Vanessa didn't just want Ryan. She wanted to erase her. The anonymous messages returned, sharper now, mocking. "Enjoy your new reputation. Maybe now you'll take care of what's yours. You lost because you weren't good enough. Accept it." Claire cried in secret, locking herself in the bathroom, clutching her arms as if holding herself together. She felt humiliated, cornered, completely alone. But somewhere deep inside, a small, stubborn spark refused to die. She wouldn't bend. And then came Ben. Ben was an attorney Claire met through a mutual friend, calm, steady, and experienced. When she told him everything, he listened in silence before saying, "If you want justice, you'll need a strategy. You won't win by shouting. You'll win with evidence." That was the moment Claire began to rise. If Ryan and Vanessa wanted war, she would fight, but on her terms, with intelligence, patience, and proof. Months earlier, if anyone had told her that her own husband would turn everything they had built together against her, she would have laughed. But now, sitting across from Ben in his quiet downtown Brooklyn office, staring at a stack of outrageous accusations, she felt the crushing weight of who Ryan had become. He had filed for divorce, demanding far more than his share of their assets. He claimed Claire had been negligent, unstable, and that he alone had carried the household financially. Worse, he accused her of emotional breakdowns and mental instability, a calculated attempt to destroy her credibility. "He's trying to make you look unhinged, to justify his cheating and cast himself as the victim," Ben said calmly, flipping through the papers. Claire's hands were ice cold. This wasn't just a legal attack. It was an assault on her dignity. "He's being manipulated," she whispered. "By the mistress," Ben said. "Vanessa." Claire nodded. What she felt now wasn't only betrayal. It was disgust, a visceral rejection of the life she had once cherished. The public humiliations came quickly. Ryan started parading Vanessa around the very places Claire once loved. Their brunch cafe in Park Slope. The Italian restaurant where she ate every Sunday. They turned those familiar spots into a stage for mockery, flaunting their affection. Ryan laughed louder. Vanessa made sure Claire saw her, smug and cruel. "What a coincidence, Claire. Didn't know you still came here." Vanessa purred once, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Another time at a pharmacy, Vanessa leaned close with fake concern. "Finally getting help for that head of yours? Or still pretending you're fine?" That night, Claire made her decision. She wouldn't stay silent anymore. Ben's strategy was simple but razor-sharp. Record everything. Every glance, every smirk, every word. They saved screenshots, logged calls, even set up a discreet camera in the mediation room. One afternoon, Ryan let his mask slip. "You just want the house because you'll never afford another one," he sneered. "I built this house with you, Ryan. Every brick. Every bill. Every night I waited up for you," Claire said, her voice tight. "You were an obligation. I only stayed out of pity." The words cut like knives, but Claire didn't flinch. Her eyes flicked briefly to the tiny blinking light in the corner. Every word had been recorded. Behind the scenes, Ben was building their case with surgical precision. Every recording, every venomous message from Vanessa, every friend who testified that Claire had carried the household during Ryan's unemployment. And most importantly, proof that her reputation was being deliberately destroyed. Meanwhile, Ryan gloated. He posted a photo of himself and Vanessa online with the caption, "Finally found peace with someone who truly values me." Claire didn't respond. She just saved the screenshot. Still, the toll was heavy. At night, she broke down in tears, sometimes wishing she could walk away from it all. But pride, or maybe justice, wouldn't let her quit. Ben saw it. "You're not a victim anymore. You're becoming a survivor," he told her gently after one exhausting hearing. "I just want the truth to come out," she whispered. "And it will," he promised. "We're going to turn this around." The turning point came sooner than expected. At a cafe in Cobble Hill, Vanessa was secretly recorded bragging to a friend. She admitted she had manipulated Ryan just to ruin Claire, boasting about planting false stories, provoking fights, and twisting the truth. The recording was captured by the friend's brother, someone who had once worked with Claire and couldn't stomach the lies. It was the missing piece. Ben prepared for the final hearing like it was trial day. Every document, audio file, screenshot, and witness statement was ready. Claire wasn't nervous. She was calm, focused. That night, she and Ben sat at her kitchen table in Carroll Gardens, surrounded by folders and transcripts. Her face was tired, but her eyes had changed. No more tears. No more trembling. Now, every insult was ammunition. Every scar, armor. "We're ready," Ben said, sliding a black folder toward her. "This changes everything." The next morning, Claire woke before dawn. She showered, pulled her hair back neatly, and put on a simple navy dress. She looked in the mirror, not to admire herself, but to remember who she was. Her face bore the marks of stress, but her eyes? Steady. Unbreakable. The final hearing was set for 10 a.m. It would decide the apartment, the assets, and unofficially, who walked out with their dignity. Ryan arrived first, holding Vanessa's hand like she was a trophy. Vanessa wore a tight red dress and a smug grin, convinced victory was hers. Claire walked in beside Ben, calm and unshaken. She didn't look at either of them. Ryan's lawyer spoke first, a polished speech about a marriage that collapsed due to Claire's instability and emotional cruelty. Ryan nodded solemnly, playing the victim. Vanessa smiled, satisfied. Then Ben stood. "Your Honor," he said, handing over a flash drive. "What you're about to see proves that this case isn't about truth. It's about manipulation." The judge's expression sharpened. "We have recordings, screenshots, and sworn testimony, including a confession from the woman involved with Mr. Ryan. They show this separation was orchestrated to destroy Mrs. Claire emotionally, socially, and financially." The atmosphere shifted. Faces turned. Ryan's smile faltered. Vanessa's leg bounced under the table. She fumbled with a tube of lipstick but couldn't steady her hand. The judge ordered the recordings played. Vanessa's voice filled the courtroom. "She deserves to lose everything. He's with me now. We'll make sure she ends up with nothing." Then Ryan's voice. "She was just an obligation. She can't survive without me." Silence. Even Ryan's lawyer had no words. Ben remained steady. "We also have statements confirming that Mrs. Claire supported the household financially while Mr. Ryan was unemployed, and despite constant provocation, she never retaliated." Ryan tried to interrupt. The judge raised a hand. "Mr. Ryan, remain silent while the evidence is reviewed." Vanessa shrank in her seat. Claire didn't need to speak. Her truth was already in the room. When the judge finally looked up again, his tone was firm, decisive. Due to the intentional emotional harm and deliberate manipulation of these proceedings, this court awards Mrs. Clare full ownership of the Brooklyn property, half of all shared assets, and a public written apology from Mr. Ryan, or face financial penalties. All accusations against Mrs. Clare are dismissed. Claire closed her eyes. No tears. Just peace. Vanessa stood and left without a word. Ryan opened his mouth, but Claire met his gaze first. You tried to destroy me with lies, she said evenly. I brought you down with the truth. And then she turned and walked out, this time as the one who had won. The days that followed were quiet. Not the suffocating silence she'd once endured, but the kind that comes after a storm. The sky still heavy, but the air lighter in your chest. Survival had a sound, and for Claire, it was silence. She didn't throw a party. She didn't post a single photo online. No captions about triumph. No glasses raised in victory. She simply went home. She opened every window in the apartment and sat on the living room couch, the same couch where she had cried herself to sleep night after night. Sitting there now, she felt something she hadn't in months. Peace. The apartment that had nearly been stolen from her was hers again, not only by law, but by justice. The furniture hadn't changed, but she had. The walls still carried scars, yes, but they also told a story of resilience. They held proof of the woman she had been before the heartbreak, and the stronger one she had become after it. The anonymous messages stopped. The online whispers faded. Ryan's public outings with Vanessa disappeared. Even neighbors who once avoided her now greeted her with gentle, apologetic smiles. Friends who had pulled away began reaching out again, cautious at first, with nervous little compliments about her strength, how gracefully she'd endured it all. But Claire no longer clung to bitterness. She had learned to let go. Ben still visited sometimes, now as a friend. They'd sit on her small balcony, sipping coffee, watching the city hum below. They didn't talk about the trial anymore, just life. One afternoon, as the breeze drifted through the open window, Ben looked at her and said, You know, Claire, most people in your position would have lost control. But you turned it all around. With class. She smiled faintly, lifting her eyes to the sky. Oh, I broke Ben. Just not where anyone could see. And when I did, I picked up the right pieces. Weeks later, walking through Prospect Park, Claire unexpectedly crossed paths with Ryan. He was alone. Thinner, pale, the confidence gone from his face. His clothes hung loosely, and his eyes searched hers for something. Control, guilt, maybe forgiveness. He stopped, as if to speak. Claire beat him to it. Her voice was calm, but final. You don't need to say anything. I heard all I needed to in that courtroom. We're good. Ryan didn't argue. For the first time, he had no comeback. No excuse. He turned and walked away. And Claire? She kept walking too. With every step, she felt lighter. The sun warmed her face in a way it hadn't in months. The wind carried something softer. The city looked different, not because it had changed, but because she had. Back home, she started an anonymous blog. She wrote about betrayal, about healing, about rediscovering yourself when everything you trusted breaks. Some posts were personal. Others told the stories of women who reached out to her, strangers who had once felt voiceless. And the messages poured in. You helped me get up again. For the first time, I feel seen. Thank you for reminding me I can survive this. Claire realized she had found something far more powerful than revenge. Her pain, no matter how sharp, had become a lifeline for others. One night, while drafting a new post, a private message appeared on her screen. You saved my life. Thank you for existing. A lump rose in her throat. She cried. But this time, the tears weren't for grief. They were for pride, gratitude, victory. Not over Ryan. Over herself. Over the woman who once believed she couldn't live without him. Now, she knew better. She didn't need anyone else to feel whole. And if someone ever asked her what she had gained from all that heartbreak, she would know exactly how to answer. Strength. Freedom. Dignity. You just heard this one from Stories by Sue. If it resonated, don't forget to like and subscribe. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments, I'd love to hear. Thanks for watching.